Total Retail recently released its fourth annual Retail Technology Report, addressing retailers' spending behavior, as well as tracking trends in retail technology investments. To download your copy of the 2020 Retail Technology Report, go to mytotalretail.com/resources.
Welcome to Total Retail Talks, your podcast channel for retail knowledge.
Hi, I'm Joe Keenan of Total Retail. I am joined today by Jessica Herrin, who is the founder and CEO of jewelry company Stella Dot. We're going to talk to Jessica a little bit about the current business environment and how it's impacting retailers such as Stella Dot in light of the COVID-19 health crisis, and talk a little bit about her leadership in that time, as well as a little bit about just the brand itself and kind of the digital transformation it's been undertaking. So thanks for joining me today, Jessica.
Well, Joe, thank you so much for having me. And I hope you and your loved ones are safe during this crazy time.
Yes, and likewise, and to all of our listeners as well. That's a great point. As I mentioned, this is a very challenging time for many industries, retail included. So let's talk a little bit about, what Stella Dot is doing to adjust its business as we kind of exist in what is really becoming this new normal.
Mm-hmm. Well, in many ways, our business is more than a jewelry business. We are a family of brands of fashion, accessories, and skincare. And even more than we think of ourselves as a company, we're a community that's mission driven, and we've always existed to help people earn flexible income. I feel at this moment never more grateful for that mission and preparation for this moment. And I'll tell you what's the same and what's radically changed. One, we were somewhat created to exist amongst chaos because I started this out of my living room with another full-time job, with a baby on the hip, and most of our ambassadors, we sell exclusively through our social retail channel where people share things they love digitally in person and earn money. And most of those people have other full or part-time jobs and a busy life. So they're already operating with distraction. Where I'm so glad is that we've innovated to be digitally advantaged, where we focused on not just doing that at in-person pop-up events, but really through an app. So in a way, I would say our sales system is what it's been, our purpose is what it's been, but looking around at the news of the economy with people's lifestyles totally disrupted with shelter in place, with kids out of school, and all of a sudden people trying to work while they homeschool, while they do their 7th load of laundry. We've realized that in these extraordinary times, we need to take really extraordinary measures and make sure that we fulfill everything that we can. So we're redirecting company resources to add bonuses for our ambassadors to earn more and to help other people enroll and get started as a way to earn. As we look at the economic numbers and unemployment data, we want to be there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's an interesting point. And you're in a unique position, obviously, as the CEO of the brand and leader. People look to you and kind of to steady the ship and make sure they're looking for confidence from you that hopefully we're going to get through this and we'll be better off for it maybe in the end. Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing to motivate your team? You talked a little bit about that in terms of the bonuses for your ambassadors, just to kind of keep it's challenging, but to keep a positive attitude and keep your employees and staff motivated in this climate.
Well, I think that's a great question. And I think that is the job of a leader. And I often think everyone is a leader, whether they want to be or not. You're influencing the people around you. You can either bring them up or drag them down. And so, we all tend to make people better, but it's hard. And I, first of all, I've been very vulnerable with my team. I have been, like everyone, anxious and worried. And, I would call it flat out depressed at times, worrying about my elderly father, worrying about the economy and the impact on children who aren't going to get meals from schools, from the unemployment rate, what that's going to do to our nation. And so I've thought about every time I get low, I try to redirect myself to saying, okay, how now? You may not solve the world's problems, but can you chip away at it in some meaningful way? And how do you think about people instead of yourself? And find how you can help and with some action. So within our company, we galvanized to create a charity boutique to benefit No Kids Hungry, to really bolster the organizations that are going to have to step up to feed kids that rely on school meals for their calories.
Mm-hmm.
We were able to do that very quickly. I feel very grateful for that. With our team, we've also really come full circle and embracing, this sort of crept up on all of us saying, okay, our kids are out of school, or our supply chain might be disrupted, to, oh no, we're sheltering in place, to, oh no, this is going to be a while that we're doing this. And so with that, we have been coming together as a community during these really difficult times to share tips with each other on how to work effectively from home. We, I think, are advantaged in the sense that we've always had a work culture that embraced flexibility and family first and people working remotely. So we do that well with Zoom and Slack, and we've kind of operated that way. But we're about to take that to a radical new level. We've decided we're going to take one of our offices, not our main facility, which does distribution and call center in Ohio, but our California office, and never go back to work the regular way. And we're going to go virtual with essentially a WeWork type of capability out of my home and redirect the costs into our sales field. Yeah. So bold, radical measures because it's a really extraordinary time.
Yeah, as you mentioned, that's very kind of a bold step and strategic move there. Getting back to this being a leader, and one of the key things for a leader is communication. Can you talk a little bit about your role in communicating with your customers and your employees, kind of reinforcing the commitment of Stella Dot to them during this time of crisis, and just striking the right tone in those messaging? Obviously, that's something that brands need to get right at this time. Tell us a little bit about kind of the communication strategy and how that's working internally at Stella Dot.
Sure. Well, one, I would say I am so lucky to have an incredible team of people, both in our home office and in our sales field. And it's really our collective voices that I believe are striking the right tone and leading each other in different ways. I'll give you an example. My partner and our chief creative officer, she did a live on our public brand page where she's using her creative talents to talk to people about how to do a thoughtful meditation. Because we're not going to be hard selling people during this time, but we're going to be giving them a lot of love and using whatever knowledge or abilities that we have to try to pull us all together as a community through this with emotional strength, with financial strength. Our chairman is this just, master of happiness. He is such a calm, sweet, kind soul. He's been, whether you're religious or not, he's almost been giving almost sermons and inspiring sermons, with inside our Facebook group of our community. I have certainly given people the right tone of, listen, we will get through this. Our revenue has been radically impacted because we do have in-person events. We do have categories that people have a little bit less of a demand for while they're not going out. And I've made the commitment to the company that I will personally loan the company money. So I don't even think it's tone, it's authenticity. Mm-hmm. It's not about crafting a message. It's about being transparent and real with your customers, with your every stakeholder, whether it's an investor, a partner, a seller for us. So we've tried to share that, with people, and that can be scary because sometimes it will worry other people. But you've got to be real.
Yeah, and sometimes being transparent, and sometimes you might give them information. How do you draw the line and make the balance between what you need to share, but sharing too much potentially?
Well, I probably always share too much, and I'll tell you why. We're very mission driven, and I've always found I treat our ambassadors like critical business partners sitting at the table, and I don't want to treat them like they're not smart professional people that they are. I want to go in with the assumption that they can handle the information. So I tell them, yes, this might impact our supply chain. We might see things late. Yes, this might, business is going to be fine, but I don't want to assume that people can't rise to the occasion of being in the know. So, I get that there's totally a balance there, but I think I err on the side of over communication and transparency. I have seen, especially in somewhat of our industry, you'll see competitors almost twist what you say and try to use it to their own advantage. It has no basis. It's just sort of a normal business flow.
Yeah.
But I still rather go to the light and believe that we're here to educate people and help them. And so I believe sharing business insider information is part of developing that acumen.
Yeah. And then you could, under that kind of strategy, you can always go back and course correct, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think we've hopefully trust and have earned that trust over the last 16 years in this business, over the last 25 years of my career, that people know our heart and who we are and our ethics and our integrity, and we're consistent with that. And I think you put deposits in that bank, and then if you overshare or, because you care, that there's permission there.
Yeah. So one more question kind of in this crisis management theme where we started our conversation, and we'll switch gears a little bit. But just, we're in the present, you're in the moment now dealing with this, unprecedented situation, really. But do you have any, for our other listeners out there, maybe that are, leaders of their own brands or aspiring leaders, what advice would you have for them as, you try to help companies, get through this challenging time and kind of the right tact to take?
Well, I think, I am wiser now. That is a nice way of saying I'm older. And this is my first entrepreneurial rodeo. And for that, I am so grateful because I've already made every mistake you could possibly make. Second time around, and I do think in talking to other board members and talking to other companies, and being a person who, I studied economics at Stanford, it is my passion. So I look at this world right now and I've lived through different economic cycles. I've run multiple different types of businesses. And this is my advice to any business. We're living in unprecedented times. It will be more severe for you as a business than you think. And your risk is acting too slowly and too conservatively to be able to future-proof your business. So you need to be really thoughtful about the fact that you are trying to forecast the unknowables. What will happen in September? What will happen to the economy? What will happen to, with consumers? And so you've got to be able to future-proof. And so that's why we very swiftly took very radical measures to make sure that we'll have the cash, the fortitude to get through even the double bad, the worst case scenario you can even imagine, because that's the prudent, responsible thing to do. And you have to make tough decisions.
So now switching gears a little bit, and I feel like we've kind of, we had to address this just because it's, top of mind for everyone right now, kind of the COVID situation and how it's impacting industry. But let's switch it a little bit up and talk a little bit about just the brands itself, and kind of your inspiration. As I mentioned, you're the founder of the company. Tell us a little bit about, why you launched Stella Dot, and, tell us a little bit about each individual brand.
Sure. So I launched Stella Dot because I was previously an e-commerce entrepreneur. I dropped out of business school to start a weddings-based gift registry and content business very early on in the first .com boom. And while that business was commercially successful, I was super proud and happy. We were on Oprah. It was, looked good on paper. After we got a lot of media exposure, a lot of people reached out to me and said, give me your best advice. I want to start a business. What should I do? And I thought to myself, well, whatever you do, don't do what I'm doing. It only looks good on TV. It's a nightmare. I work all the time. I have tons of student debt. I have employees, leases. And sometimes I felt like it was overly commercial. And I know that's crazy to call a business overly commercial, but I gotta say, if you're successful on paper, but you don't feel soulfully connected to what you do, you don't feel like you've got a mission and a purpose, what's the point? Are you really successful? So I just knew something was missing for me. And after I sold that business, actually while I was there, I encountered a lot of people asking me for advice on how to, have a passion, start a business. And I encountered this old school direct selling world, and I became obsessed with reinventing it for the modern woman, being all about the best products, so that your buzzworthy products could be featured, in any magazine, any influencer, get every award, have great brand, and yet you had digital technology, bringing my technology background to be Amazon easy, quick delivery, free returns, quality guaranteed, but doing it for purpose, which is helping people earn flexible income. And more than ever right now, I really think everyone will have a side gig. It's already the predominant trend of over half of millennials, over 30% of North Americans, another income stream. And I wanted that to be modern and not icky and not dated and smart, like a smart business model. So we started with accessories and a Stella Dot brand. We expanded with clean skincare in our Allure Best of Beauty winning brand ever. We expanded types of accessories with Keep Collective. And I'll tell you why I think that's better as a business model. To serve our mission and our purpose is people have choice of products to sell with one easy enrollment, and they're digitally advantaged to sell it so they can develop complementary income streams and earn money fast.
So the purpose behind the brand, I want to talk a little bit about that. So obviously there's a lot of competition in the markets that you compete in, and particularly online. So, you're competing not just for wallet, but also kind of just consumers' attention. So talk a little bit about kind of the differentiators for Stella and Dot that would, want to make a consumer want to engage with the brand, the beginning of a relationship. I imagine that kind of story and the purpose of the brand is core to your messaging.
Well, it actually, one of the things I wanted to change about this concept of an industry person-to-person selling is that nobody wants to go beg friends and family for a sale. That's not going to deserve the sale, the repeat, and the referral. So I think how you get consumers' attention has got to be product. It has to be better than anything else out there. It has to have a solution for a customer. So better performance in our skincare with clinical results, better style, quality, and value, unique services like engraving or versatility. So to me, you have to win on product, which is design and quality and price value. Then it's not enough in this world to just do that because you're competing with giants that are driving down margin like an Amazon. Mm-hmm. So with that, you've also got to compete on brand, which is coming from product, and service. So we need to do what Amazon cannot, which is deliver authentic recommendations from people you trust, the true influencer, not anyone who's an Instagram influencer, but someone where you actually drive purchase conversion because someone relates to you, they know your life, they trust your recommendation, whether you share it in person or on social media. We differentiate our sales model because we bring consumers. We don't expect them just to go to our website and browse. We will have someone that they admire text them a personal recommendation and make it easy to shop and get special value added perks. So to me, you have to win with the consumer if you're going to serve your mission of helping people earn money. They've got to be able to deserve it.
Right, true. And then you mentioned there kind of the role of that, and I believe you referred to them as your ambassadors, the sales associate, so to speak, in the process. Tell us a little bit about kind of their role in the growth of the brand and kind of the story that you're telling, and the connection to product too, as obviously they're the expert, and the people are relying on them to kind of be able to tell them about the product and its great capabilities. So maybe you want to touch on that a little bit?
Sure. Well, first of all, our ambassadors are at the heart of everything we do because that is our mission. That's why we exist. So we collaborate with them incredibly in landing our line, in helping us to create the right programs and marketing. So we're very, very field centric because we believe that's our X factor. That's our point of difference. And when we think about how they are able to share their story, I think about what's broken for a consumer and how can our ambassadors help them fix it. Okay, so these are not necessarily product experts, but they are people that bring a solution to life. So I'll start where we started in our accessories business. Still today, it's locked up in a glass case and you don't know how to necessarily wear it. You need a little bit of instruction or confidence. Like if we could have video on this podcast right now, I'm wearing a bracelet that I combined with another piece to make it a necklace and did it layered this way. And I'm storytelling about what the piece is, how you wear it. So just the tiniest bit of demonstration, whether you're seeing how I do it by a social media picture or I'm texting you a little video, it adds value. Mm-hmm. The skincare, right? I walk into a superstore and you're overwhelmed by the wall of options and there's so much marketing And honestly, it's not very accurate, right? Because of the way we are allowed to market, you can market an ingredient, but it isn't enough to do any difference, and it's confusing for the consumer. And so if you have someone that that you literally can see a difference in the results and they're breaking it down for you and they offer you just free returns, that drives conversion for the customer. So that's how we tell their story, is we encourage them to use, wear, and share the product. And we give them discounts and ways to earn it for free. And then they're really the storytellers of our product to the consumer.
Yeah, and that authentic experience. While you might have physical stores, you're creating these experiences through in-person events, and you're trying to do that digitally as well, I would imagine.
The majority is done digitally, which is, again, why I really think this is going to rapidly share with the world how much we've innovated. Most people do this digitally. So they are creating virtual events via Facebook, they're doing group texts, and they're using our app to share videos, style boards, recommendations, text a beauty quiz to help somebody address what products are right for a skin concern. So yeah, they really are doing this with personal service, but oftentimes one-to-many and doing it digitally.
Yeah. So a couple more questions, Jessica. So let's stay on that kind of digital track there for a second and talk about you spoke at the eTail West conference about a month and a half ago, and talked a lot about kind of the digital transformation of Stella Dot. What does that look like for the brand right now, and kind of where do you see continuing to trend in terms of digital?
Well, so first of all, like any business, you don't just have a good idea once and then you just keep rocking it, right? It's like the world is changing, you've got to change with it. Even if you have the same purpose, you've got to be different in order to serve it over time. We were finding that when we originally started, we had a website, but most of our sales were being driven by in-person events. Over the last few years, you could radically see that changing. But what concerned me when I looked at our sales data and our trends was seeing that a lot of our sellers were dependent on free traffic exposure from Facebook. And, Facebook is not a nonprofit. And you can see that story happen over and over again with Google, with Yahoo before that. They build mass by giving people free exposure. Then they ratchet it back and build ad revenue. So I could see people behaving in a way where that is not going to work. They're going to immediately change that algorithm and ratchet back traffic. So a lot of brands that were relying on being platform dependent were struggling and declining, nor were they differentiating the customer experience so that why would I shop this way? Am I getting something out of it as a customer? So we started several years ago investing tens of millions of dollars into building our own proprietary, now patent pending, social retail digital platform. Basically looking forward and saying, where's the intersection of how customers want to shop and sellers want to sell? We have to build a digital advantage. And so we've been doing that. And we also looked at cultural behavior. People now see themselves as the brand. And whereas before they might have wanted a rule book and to have been a specialist in one brand to sell, meaning I'm only going to share skincare, I'm only going to share fashion. Today, they don't want to do that. They expect technology and online learning to take away the complexity and have the ability, and they want to sign up to represent multiple things. The problem with that is it's complex, there's multiple fees. Like, why? We decided make one platform with a shop people personalize our brands, and in the future, other people's brands. Make that easy for an ambassador to enroll, give her the tools to share it all and maximize her payday. So we went through a radical disruption of our own business. And I think whenever you do that, if you're doing something innovative, people think you're insane because it looks that way along the way. But, I've had people do that, say that and think that all the time when I've been in, reinvention mode. So we were brave enough to do it, crazy enough to do it. And now I'm so glad that we took that big bet, because I think it's put us in exactly the right time to be the solution people need for a financial stimulus package of their own by selling with S&D brands.
Yeah. And you got to be willing to take that risk as an entrepreneur, your mindset. And, sometimes you're going to fail out, like you said, but, you got to be willing to take the risk and, if you fail, learn from it and, move on.
That's exactly right. I think you become an entrepreneur because you train yourself to see what other people's don't yet see and believe in it before it exists. And you're looking ahead. And when I could, several years ago, I felt like, I used this analogy for our sales field to explain this. I felt like we lived in this beautiful village on top of a hill. I made this analogy because this actually was true of my grandfather's village in Italy. And I could see, the landslide. I could see the cliff eroding, but nobody wanted to move the village. We had the best view. Why would you go? But, over years, you could see it was eroding more and more and more till you realize we're going to have to go. We have to go find terra firma and build on solid ground. The world is shifting. And so at some point, you got to get everybody to pack up and move before it slides, not after. Mm-hmm. And so that is, I think, why you look crazy and paranoid, and because you're like, guys, we got to go. And they're like, why? It's perfectly lovely here. And you're like, no, don't you see? And so that's what we did. And I couldn't be more glad that we took that pretty outrageous risk.
Yeah. So let's end with this one. Let's say hopefully sooner rather than later, we get through this, health crisis, and we'll move on. We get through kind of the effects of coronavirus and what it's doing to industry. What are you most optimistic about? And it could be, for Stella Dot specifically, or just commerce in general, and kind of how do you see consumers responding after we kind of pull through this time?
I think the world and work will be forever changed by the world going through this global pandemic. I think that more people will have realized that I don't want to shelter in place, but all the time, but actually I don't want to commute 5 days a week and it's not necessary. So I think that the workplace will change. And then for brands, I think it'll accelerate the shifts we've already seen, meaning you either need to have tremendous scale and be all about convenience and delivery, like an Amazon or a Walmart. Or you have to be all about brand and community, like a Stella Dot, Keep Collective, and Ever Skincare, where you're differentiating on unique product that you absolutely cannot get elsewhere, where you differentiate on service and community and heart.
Great. Well, I want to take this opportunity to thank Jessica Herrin, the founder and CEO of Stella Dot, for joining me today. Obviously, a terribly busy time for a lot of us, and just a unique time. So I appreciate you taking the time today, Jessica. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Great speaking with you.
Thanks for listening. For more information on this podcast, please check out our podcast channel page at mytotalretail.com/podcast for show notes. Total Retail Talks is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, and Spotify. Make sure to subscribe on our podcast channel page as well. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a few moments to rate and review this podcast. Thanks, and until next time, this has been Total Retail Talks.
Total Retail recently released its 4th annual Retail Technology Report, addressing retailers' spending behavior, as well as tracking trends in retail technology investments. To create the report, Total Retail surveyed its audience of retail executives to better understand their current usage of technology, future technology needs and wants, and their processes within their organizations for technology purchases. To download your copy of the 2020 Retail Technology Report, go to mytotalretail.com/resources.